What's it all about? Davy, what I mean, what are we doing here? You're the universe. You could really do much worse, Davy. We're here for this lifetime just to give. Just don't take up your whole life, start to live. What do you believe, Davy? That you are and can have what you think. There is not much more, very simple stuff, Davy. This life is short, pay attention, don't you blink. You know that you know what you know, don't you know, Davy. No, there is more than you know. There are answers deep within. Just sit and listen. Then I think you'll know, Davy. You'll know. Take truth for yourself, Davy. Put that stink thinking up on the shelf, Davy, Davy. When you love, just know that you're loving yourself. There is love and there is nothing else. Davy. Davy.
And that's a perfect introduction for Dave Friedman. What's it all about? Come on up.
I had to do that. So what's it all about? Insert name here. Right? Why are we here? Why are we where? And as always, I like to say, who is it that's asking? Here we are in this room. Short term, we're here to listen to me ramble a few minutes, but let's talk bigger picture. As we are, I'm assuming, of a single mind, and I'm also going to assume that based on this, that we are more or less on the same path and the same page with regards to our spiritual journey, that we are more or less looking for the same thing. And what do you think that might be? Happiness, love, joy, connection, peace, pizza. I've been thinking about this, and all of these are things that we are looking for, absolutely. But I think that if I could be so bold as to make a suggestion, and I'd put it all into one big word here, roll it up and put in and say, enlightenment. And what does that mean? It means different things to different people. And so we're going to talk a little bit, well, I am going to talk a little bit about what that means, kind of what it looks like, and maybe a couple ideas how we can actually wander in close to it. And I'll tell you why I phrase that way. For 150 years, back in the 18th century, there was an era called enlightenment. And it was actually marked by a rejection of traditional social, religious, and political views and emphasis on rationalism and a celebration of the powers of human reason, science, and religious toleration. The desire to construct governments free of tyranny. That lasted for about 150 years, and they ended up after that in the Romantic era, which I think is really nice. The Webster Dictionary, along with most other dictionaries, say that enlightenment is the act or means of enlightening or the state of being enlightened. Thanks for that. Hinduism suggests it's a state of transcendent divine experience represented by Vishnu, regarded as a goal of all religion. And then Buddhism says it's the awakening to the ultimate truth by which man is freed from the endless cycle of personal reincarnations to which all men are otherwise subject. And then I like this, such knowledge is the basic antidote to ignorance and suffering. And then there's this guy, Matthew Ricard, Buddhist monk, photographer, humanitarian, fills it out like this. Enlightenment is a state of perfect knowledge or wisdom combined with infinite compassion. Knowledge in this case does not mean merely the accumulation of data or the description of a world phenomenon down to the finest details. Enlightenment is an understanding of both the relative mode of existence, which is the way things appear to us, and the ultimate mode of existence, which is the true nature of these same appearances. Both sides of the matrix, if you will. I'd like to suggest that we're actually here to become or to be. Become or be what? Because aren't we already everything that we will ever be? Except that maybe we don't know it yet. So I think that what it is we are to become is consciously aware that we are. Consciously aware that we are. And in that awareness, we can allow ourselves to be more. More than absolutely everything? Well, doesn't that sound like a fun challenge? There's this guy, Radhakrishna Swami, who says all beautiful forms of this world are in the process of transformation. Nothing is stable. With every moment, our reality is changing. Mother Ganges, like nature, is constant, but no manifestation of hers remains. Likewise, all that we hold dear in this world is imperceptibly vanishing. We cannot cling to anything. But if we can appreciate the beauty of the underlying current of truth, we can enjoy a reality deeper than the fickle waves of joy and sorrow. Let me ask you this. Do most of you believe in some sort of reincarnation? Couple in the front here. I don't. I didn't in my past life, and I'm not going to again in my next life. So in between each incarnation, we are somewhere. And then we end up here for a while. And then we go back up after we drop the body somewhere and do the whole thing over again. So it's almost like, I don't know, going on a vacation, right? And what do you do on vacations? Well, we're supposed to have fun, right? So while we're here, why don't we have a good time? Joy is a primary attribute of spirit. It's actually one of the highest vibrations. David Hawkins did this whole vibrational scale, and like at 700 is enlightenment, and 600 is peace and bliss, and right under that at 540 is actually joy. So it's really way up there in a vibrational scale. So I also believe that joy is our natural state. If you look at little kids, you know, your little puppy dogs, right? That is our natural state. And by not experiencing that, we are not only shortchanging ourselves, but we are quashing our inherent natural isness. I think I made that word up. So why enlightenment? Well, if you knew you could be richer, taller, smarter, better looking, whatever you desired, wouldn't you want to do that? So if you have access to that beautiful consciousness about and within us that makes our lives a little easier, makes them make more sense, allows us to live in the knowing bliss and peace, wouldn't we want some of that? Why enlightenment? Again, it's not something to strive for. I don't think we can go get it, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. But it is just to know that it's out there. We're here to do the work and to follow our hearts, to grow, to be open, to be aware, and what will happen will happen. And as we stay the course and find our peace, we naturally find ourselves closer to source. And isn't that where we want to be? Osho says, enlightenment is a simple realization that everything is as it should be. This is the definition of enlightenment. Everything is as it should be. Everything is utterly perfect, just as it is. That feeling, and suddenly you're at home. Nothing is being missed. You are a part, an organic part of this tremendously beautiful whole. You are relaxed in it, surrendered in it. You don't exist separately because all separation has disappeared. It's more fun listening to him actually speak it. I think that we don't move towards enlightenment. Again, it's not a goal as much as it is spirit pulling us to itself. It's akin to being called home, really. It's where we started out, and it is to where we're going to return. And so it's not necessarily all about becoming something, because, of course, we already are something, as it's more like revealing the real you to yourself and by proxy the rest of the world. So why not do what we can now to be aware of it while we are here in this incarnation? From this thing called you, Ernest Holmes says, your desire for self-expression is inherent in the divine pattern itself. And it is because you intuitively feel this pattern that you grope back toward it. Learn to trust the intuition within you. That's easy, right? I find it takes a lot of faith to let something outside of myself manage my adventure for me. I've learned that I can easily envision something I already know how to accomplish. So I'm working on being able to allow myself access to a bigger vision. And the faith part comes from knowing that the universe has a bigger plan for me, for us. We just got to let it be. There's a song in there. I was thinking, if one is truly enlightened, do they know it? Do you think that being enlightened is actually something that they're aware of? If you're familiar with this thing called the zone, being in the zone, I decided that actually while I was in the zone, I did not be aware that I was not conscious that I was there. It was pure just channeling spirit. And a couple times I was completely in it. And every once in a while, I just like watch it happening. Mostly while I'm playing, I'm just like watching that and go, wow, that's really cool. But so being in the zone to me is not something that we're aware of. I'm sure that a lot of you have actually experienced that, and it is a blessing. So with this concept in mind, I decided that the ones that truly are enlightened don't really consider themselves enlightened. They're just being who they are, and we place that label on them. For researching this talk, I changed my mind. That's not the case at all. The enlightened ones, some of the ones that I saw during the research on Osho, Eckhart Tolle, Paramahansa Yogananda, they know that the feeling of enlightenment, the expanded awareness, the completion, the light, the unbounded bliss is something they were completely and totally and consciously aware of. And they remember that feeling in detail as they were experiencing what we call a romantic episode, that just feeling of complete and total bliss. I've actually run into a couple of people who have had it. Joan Lamontagne, is that her last name? Down at the other center, told us all about it. It's exactly what everybody says. It's got to be really something. And the ones, so we know that we're actually in it, and we remember it, and it never leaves. And it changes the way you look at completely the rest of your life like that. And so it's all about being, just being. I think it was Alan Watts who said, when I was a Buddhist, it drove my friends and parents crazy. But when I became a Buddha, no one was bothered by it. Which means to me that when he was trying, he was, trying. And when he accepted his natural Buddhahood, it was an easy, comfortable beingness. And everyone around him, including himself, was very much at ease with just that beingness. So as you Think about where we are. You think about where you are individually. Any idea where you are in your journey? There you go. Good answer. When? There you go. Okay, I'm done. How can we tell where we are? Because I know that there's a part of us humans that like to keep track. You know, we're keeping score. Where are we? Where are we going? How are we going to get there? It's a natural thing. And how are you going to get somewhere if you don't know where you're starting, right? So I have a little checklist here. Ready? Collect your pencils. Got this from Deepak. And here are just some few things that we find ourselves. When we find ourselves, for instance, being emotionally stable, when you notice that inner calm and detachment increases, that means that you're centered in the midst of outer activity. That means what goes on around doesn't really bother you because you're in your source. Your feelings of connection grow. You feel less alone, more bonded with other people. Empathy deepens. We can sense what others are feeling. We seem to care more about them. Here's a huge one. Judgment ceases. You accept things and people as they are. You revere the spirit, the soul, the light. It's a true sense of namaste. Forgiveness is automatic. You're living completely in the now, causing old memories, wounds, and race consciousness to completely lose their grip. When you find yourself being mindful of your health, because people on this path just seem to inherently know that mind, body, and spirit must be in harmony in order to maintain peak spiritual condition. Awareness becomes more acute. You get better at knowing what's real and who's genuine. Truth reveals itself. You no longer buy into conventional beliefs and prejudices, and you are able to see the world with great clarity and without attachment to preconceived ideas. People in this space are humble. Since they know their place in the universe, they don't need validation from others. Lao Tzu says, "He who knows doesn't speak. He who speaks doesn't know." The body just feels lighter. Clarity dawns and active thinking decreases, and particularly negative thinking. When thoughts do occur, they tend to be practical and pertain to actions that need to be performed. You end up being less confused and conflicted. An inner sense of freedom arises, along with a marked absence of fear. Fear of death no longer exists. Fear of embarrassment, fear of letting someone down, or really knowing who we are and how we're getting there. Time stops being a burden, and in some cases no longer even registers. Those of you sometimes who have to deal with me know I got this one down. In place of minutes, nows, and days, there's really a sense of no time in which only the present moment exists. The sense of self, the I, is no longer a limited creation of the ego. Instead, the self identifies with unbounded self-awareness, allowing for a greater sense of freedom. We become very peaceful and serene, bliss. You love more deeply. As you can see, these aren't really religious experiences. They just describe a different and palpable state of consciousness. And it's not hard to accept that it is an improved state of being. So notice which one of these attributes you can claim. Which aspects do you currently embody, and which ones need to be worked on? Remember, the only thing we need to do is just keep expanding our awareness. Wherever we are is just right. According to more than one Zen master, gaining enlightenment is an accident. Spiritual practice simply makes us accident prone. Again, you can't try to be enlightened. It's not something to accomplish. It's not a goal or something we can plan for. We just do our work and become more aware and awake, live in love, live in compassion. And if that experience of enlightenment presents itself, cool. So how do we do this? How do we get closer to that knowing, the true knowing that we believe we are? And what can we do to be more conscious along this path? What path? To where? I love these things. And aren't we always just where we are? And where is there? Isn't there here? They call them both-ended questions. So what we're trying to do is just be aware of exactly where we are in this moment. Remember, we are already as spiritual as we will ever be. It's just a matter of decluttering, kind of removing that stuff that sits on top of the truth, which is also the stuff that obscures that truth from us. Again, there's nothing wrong with where we are. We have got to be somewhere, okay? And it's not necessarily about becoming something, because we already are something. It's just becoming more of the real you. Me becoming more of the real me. You can place that on yourself. From the Science of Mind textbook, the evolution of the individual, the unfoldment of personality, the enlightenment of the soul, the illumination of the spirit can only come to the degree that the individual himself purposes to let life operate through him. And then the Bible chimes in, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. So the first step, just to know that it exists. The second step is to want it, really want it. And the third would be to do the work. Call it go through life meditating. And really the true purpose and the best way to meditate is be completely clear, aware, uncluttered, and firmly in the now, focused. And I know that we try and do our meditation, our tables with the music and the incense and everything, but we could do meditation walking. Best not to do it driving, but you probably could, because you're totally aware. You know what's going on, and that's an active meditation. Let me give you some ideas of some things that might help, things we can actually do. So before you get into your meditation stuff, ask yourself, sincerely ask yourself, what is Spirit's highest vision for my life? Because when you ask such a question, you touch the heart of the infinite. And when your intuition is attuned, you will receive a response. Most answers are waiting to come to us simply through a properly asked question. Choose your intentions with your heart. Ask yourself, why do I really want to do this? Is it to create harmony? Am I doing or saying what feels good in my heart? Or am I doing or saying what my mind is telling me to do? And pick one attribute a day to work on. Feel, know. What does it mean to be that? For instance, let's choose compassion. What does that look like? What does that feel like? Focus on that attribute. Keep questioning. Keep asking yourself, was I being compassionate today? Was I compassionate during that last adventure? During that last meeting? Was I compassionate at the checkout counter? Did I compassionately let that driver in front of me? Pay attention. Ask yourself. Be aware. Go a little farther maybe. Try a whole week of it. Go out of your way to see how you can be friendly, kind, and compassionate to people you encounter during the week. Extend this kindness to people that you talk to. Then notice how you feel. And what effect does that have on the rest of your life? Here's a random thought. One that is awake or enlightened actually is more in touch with and more sensitive to feelings in others. And when we allow this to happen, know that this is being felt by others, and it empowers others to actually be able to do that themselves. We give them power just by being in our power. Here's another exercise. Don't judge. Don't judge people because their skin color, appearance, clothing, beliefs, any of their actions or possessions. Just accept what is to be what is. This one sometimes can be a little difficult because parts of your person Parts of your personality that judges others is actually so ingrained that judgments don't seem like judgments. That's just the way things are. I like to call them discernments. Just be careful, pay attention, take a day, observe how often you judge others or yourself, okay? And then write this stuff down. Oh yeah, journaling. How did your intention to find meaning in everyday life affect your experience? Be specific. Write it down. How did what you discover affect your perspective of yourself and others? Give examples. Then keep asking yourself questions in order to keep yourself on track. Be conscious of what it is that you're trying to do. Again, we don't really know why we're here. I want to share with you a quick story, and I wish I could find out where I heard this. It made an impression. I'd like to give somebody credit. There's a story about this woman, this type A, ambitious, hardcore workaholic career lady who just did nothing but work. I don't know how she had time to do this, but she ended up having a kid. And the kid was born severely disabled, all kinds of stuff going on. But her mother thing kicked in, right? And she turned herself that she loved this baby and loved this kid. Her heart opened wide. And she became that bliss in love for this kid. And due to his complications, he died early in life. A medium was brought in, and she talked to this kid on the other side of the veil, and the information that came back was he and his mom had made these arrangements before they came here, and their purpose for being together was to help open her heart. To me, that's a great example of having no clue why we're here. You know, we're just here to be and to grow. And the purpose that we're here will present itself. I used to think that we're not really here to write the great American novel or to cure cancer, or to, hit 750 home runs. But the more I know and the more I look into this stuff, these kind of things actually help to raise the vibration of the planet. They are all good. So I'm deciding that we are here to be, to borrow a phrase, all that we can be. Don't ask just what the world needs. Ask what it is that makes you come alive and give that light to the world. Ramana Maharshi says, your own self-realization is the greatest service that you can render the world. What we got to do, be our light, be natural. I'd like to say real quick that I feel truly blessed to be constantly surrounded by folks like yourselves. This is a blessing. High vibration, focused, open, caring, joyous, Joyces. We are here to let our light shine, to give our gifts freely and often, and of course, to be happy. And so it is.